Hello, and welcome to the chapter on the federal 3-day cooling off regulation. The first thing we need to do is define the types of transactions that are subject to the federal regulation. The phrase that's used for these transactions is door-to-door sales. Now, I understand that you're probably not going door-to-door to sell your products or services or offer the opportunity. In any event, a door-to-door sale is defined as a sale, lease, or rental of consumer goods or services, and we'll come back to the definition of this phrase in a moment, with a purchase price of $25 or more in which the seller personally solicits the sale. And this even includes sales made in response to an invitation by the buyer. A door-to-door sale also requires that the sale or the buyer's agreement to purchase is made at a place other than the place of business of the seller. A place other than the place of business of the seller includes sales at the buyer's residence, facilities rented on a temporary basis such as hotel or motel rooms, convention centers, fairgrounds, or restaurants, and sales made at the buyer's workplace or in a dormitory. The cooling off regulation applies even when a prospect invites you to make a sales presentation in his or her home. The most likely exemption to cooling off laws involves a transaction conducted and completed entirely by mail, telephone, or internet without any other contact, especially face-to-face contact between the buyer and seller prior to the delivery of the goods or the performance of the services. So, what's a consumer good or service? The regulation defines them as goods or services purchased, leased, or rented primarily for personal, family, or household purposes, including courses of instruction or training regardless of the purpose for which they're taken. Now, here's the thing that's wild. A door-to-door sale not only includes the sale of your products, but it also includes the enrollment of a new distributor if the cost to enroll or sign up exceeds $25. The FTC's position is that an MLM opportunity is a consumer service. In order to make sure that you, the distributor, don't violate federal and state laws, there are a few things that you're specifically required to do by these laws. First, if you're using paper documents, you must provide the buyer with a fully completed sales receipt or a fully completed copy of any contract, like the distributor agreement. Of course, if you're assisting a customer to place an online order or you're assisting a new distributor to enroll online, the company is responsible for sending the customer or new distributor a fully completed receipt of the order or copy of the distributor agreement. The sales receipt or contract must show the date of the transaction and contain the name and address of the seller, which is to say you or the company. The second thing the law requires is that you must provide the buyer with 2 copies of the notice of cancellation. This means that you'll provide 2 copies of the sales receipt or the contract. Third, on the notice of cancellation, if it's not already printed, you must fill in the name of the seller. If the company hasn't filled in its name as the seller, then you're the seller. The notice of cancellation must also indicate the address of the seller's place of business, the date of the transaction, and the date not earlier than the 3rd business day following the date of the transaction by which the buyer may give notice of cancellation. The fourth thing the law requires you to do is orally inform the buyer or prospective distributor at the time he or she signs the contract or purchases the goods or services of his or her right to cancel. This is huge. Most distributors have no idea that the law requires them to orally inform buyers of their rights. So please don't forget to tell your customer or your new distributor about his or her 3 business day right to cancel. Fifth, you may not misrepresent in any manner the buyer's right to cancel. For example, you can't say something like, even though the receipt says you have 3 business days to cancel, the company will only give you 2 days. With this information, let's move on to the do's and don'ts. Don't misrepresent the buyer's right to cancel. Do give the buyer a fully completed receipt or copy of any contract, for example, the distributor agreement, which shows the date of the transaction and contains the name and address of the seller. Do give the buyer 2 copies of the notice of cancellation. Remember, the notice of cancellation must provide the name of the seller's address, the date of the transaction, and the date not earlier than the third business day following the date of the transaction by which the buyer may give notice of cancellation. Do orally inform each buyer of his or her right to cancel. Well, that wraps up this short but inspiring discussion of door-to-door cooling off laws. Sadly, our time together regarding this fascinating topic has come to an end. So let's check out the breadth and the depth of your expertise one last time.